all the non-believers. How did that? To all the non-believers, especially you, Tom Jackson. Way to have our back, Keyshawn. Anybody can be beat.
Welcome back to Jets Fuel. Today I wanted to jump on here and quickly just address the press conference from yesterday with Aaron Glenn on in regards to his feelings of how the game went. And he handled a couple questions. Just wanted to address a couple of topics he touched on. Yeah, but to start out, first and foremost, he used a quote to start out how he was feeling, post the loss versus the Steelers. So he started out by saying that he was disappointed but highly encouraged. I think that's the perfect statement to make, a perfect quote to make, because I think that's how all of us Jet fans right now can resonate with. Like, it is another loss for us Jet fans and for the Jets organization, but for the first time in a long time, I feel like there are some real encouraging things out there that we're seeing, especially on the offensive side of the football. It far exceeded my expectations in regards to the offensive play of from the whole unit. They just played so much better than I thought they were going to be. So disappointed but highly encouraged. I think that was the perfect way to sum up how, obviously he's feeling, but also us as, the fan base. But like you said, highly encouraged. Then he went and touched on offensively. He spoke about this offensive brand of football that it was on display, and we got a chance to see that. This was the plan, and this is what he envisioned for this team, and that product showed on Sunday. It was great to see that out there. That we saw a beautiful complementary football. The heavy run, we run the ball down their throats. Breece Hall did his thing. Braylon Allen, sprinkled in there as well. Ran the ball, and then we complemented that with some excellent passing on the behalf of Justin Fields. That had to be the best I've ever seen Justin Fields look, and actually, it's probably the best I've ever seen our offense look in the recent future, in the recent past, I should say. In the recent past, this is the best I've ever seen our offense look. Across the board, it was just an incredible game to watch, exciting to watch offensively. I just wish that our defense came to play a little bit more, and he addressed that next. He praised the defensive line, but he also addressed that they had some issues in the secondary, and we all could see that. Despite, from the video I watched, Sauce did his thing, held his own against Metcalf. But the other guys that were surrounding Sauce in the secondary, there were some issues out there. And he also addressed the fact that, going into this next week, we have to clean up our zone coverage. And there was a lot of issues out there in regards to that. Now, was that because of us messing up in our responsibilities and our discipline in zone coverage? I don't know. But we also were facing a future Hall of Fame quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, who was on point on Sunday. So more likely it was a combination of both, but it's some things to build off of. But it's something definitely we're going to have to address, because Buffalo's coming into our house next week, elite offense, and we need our defense to be there for us, especially if our offense is going to put up 32 points, or even 20 plus points. These are games that we can win now. And it's very encouraging to see that. Obviously, our offensive unit is playing good. Can we see some consistency out of that? Are we going to see this to be a trend, or is this going to fade? Those are questions that are going to be answered as the weeks come on. But like he said, highly encouraged. Going into Buffalo next week, we're going to have an opportunity to expose them, rushing the football, obviously. I'll touch base more on that in my preview of the game. But I'm just thinking forward that if we can clean up some of these issues that we had in the secondary, some of these dumb penalties that we had, we're going to put ourselves in a good position to win a lot of games this year. So just a side note to touch on. You could be on the lookout for tomorrow night, or tomorrow night or early Thursday. My boy and I are going to be linking up. He's from Table Smashers. You can check him out on all his socials. I'll link it up in my description. Yeah, we're going to be teaming up and we're going to be discussing, talking some shit to each other. You know, he's a big Bills fan. A couple comments I seen he made on one of his Instagram posts I got to address with him. He's talking out his ass about the Patriots are a lock for the number 2 spot in the AFC East. But we'll get into that. Guy is full of great football knowledge. And like I said in previous videos, I think it's important that we know what's going on in our division. Who sits atop of our division? The Buffalo Bills. So what better source than to get it from him? All right, so be on the lookout for that. Getting back to the press conference, he did address Brandon Stevens in regards to our secondary play. He did praise him a lot, but he also said that he needs to work with him. Who better of a man to work with than Aaron Glenn? That he needs to address locating and finishing on the football. And I seen that at the end of the game. He nearly had a pick that probably would have closed out the game. But, you know, I'm encouraged. I think we can clean this up. And I think Brandon Stevens can elevate his play as well. That was the only thing that was the only negative part of the game on Sunday. I'm not exactly sure why we struggled so much in the secondary, but from what our coach is saying, that the secondary will be addressed, and these issues in zone coverage will be addressed. We also had a couple of dumb missed tackles. Those are things that can't happen, especially against a team like Buffalo. These elite offensive teams, we can't give them any extra. We can't give them any extra anything out there because I'm not looking in to get into one of these shootouts with teams like we had on Sunday. But Brandon Stevens, he needs to work on locating and finishing on the football. I think that will be addressed. And also, just entirely, I think our defense will be solid. I think we're going to see a better product coming out on Sunday. Our defensive line, our juggernauts out there. It was impressive to see that unit, playing in unison together. So, yeah. One of the main things I want to touch base on today was him addressing the penalties.
Heat of the moment type of thing.
Well, if you look at the penalties that we've had, all right, I think last year we led the league in false start penalties and illegal formation penalties. Like, we had one of those penalties yesterday. I think Tyler had a false start. So the plan is actually working the way that we want it to work. It's just, man, we have to continue to nip all those things in the bud. For the past 2 years, we led the league in penalties. So when you go out and you don't have one false start penalty, listen, I think our guys have been doing.
Going into the training camp and leading up to the season, it's been made known by Aaron Glenn and from the team that they're going to clean up all these dumb pre-snap penalties. And you've seen that on display on Sunday. I think we only had one pre-snap penalty. In general, I think we had 7 penalties in total. Two were very costly. But there was a difference between what he said, discipline penalties versus pre-snap penalties. So, in the heat of the moment, when emotions running high, he addressed the John Simpson penalty, when he was protecting Justin Fields. I like seeing stuff like that because I haven't seen that in a couple years coming from this Jets offensive line. I haven't seen guys step up and, protect our quarterback. It was refreshing to see that, but I understand that it cost us because it was at the end of the first half. We were trying to put together a drive to get a field goal, 3 points on the board, leading into half. We ended up going into halftime 19-17 when it could have been 22-17. Everything's all in hindsight, but yeah, I like seeing that play out of John Simpson. Obviously it can't continue, and it can't be a trend, but it was refreshing to see. It reminded me of the next guy that just pops in my mind is Willie Colon, that guard, our guard. He was just like that, man. He was fiery, aggressive, and he was down to protect any one of his teammates. I love seeing that kind of stuff out of our offensive line. I want mean, nasty bastards out there that just don't give a fuck. But let me not start with too much cursing. Yeah. John Simpson, he said that he's gonna, those penalties will be cleaned up, and I'm sure that will be addressed moving forward. So it's encouraging. All these plans that he put in place, Aaron Glenn and his staff, they're all coming to fruition. The brand of football that we're looking to play, cleaning up these penalties, it's showing. I know it's only week 1, but it's encouraging because he's holding people accountable. And this is a stark contrast from what we were dealing with under Robert Saleh. Like, he would come in press conferences and just say, "We need to get better. We need to get better." That's like what was his line. We need to get better. It's just great to see our coach holding people accountable, calling people out, pretty much putting people on notice that if you're going to do these dumb penalties, you're going to commit dumb penalties, you're going to turn the ball over, guess what? You're going to find yourself sitting on the bench. That's refreshing. And I believe him 100% that he'll do that. So, yeah, a lot of good things that are starting to snowball, and I'm so excited to see how this progresses the rest of the season. Now, could this be a one and done with how well we played, how disciplined we played in week 1? I hope not, because it was so much fun and refreshing to see the Jets play this style of football. I have nothing but good things to say about the offensive side of the ball. He also went on the press conference and praised the offensive line. And this is something I failed to do in my previous video, my recap video of the game. Yeah, our offensive line handled their business out there. Specifically, our right tackle, and this is one of the things I was pointing out, Membu, he handled his business against TJ Watt, man. He did a fantastic job. That was a hell of a task for him to his first NFL game, come out there and go up against TJ Watt, one of, if not the best pass rusher in the league. He held his own and handle his business. Yeah, it was very good. And it was just nice in general to see our offensive line, how they responded. Coming off of AVT's injury and them having to move Tittman to guard, and then Myers got inserted into the center. Yeah, they responded well. And it's kind of sad also and bittersweet, because you can only imagine how much better they would have looked if we had that intact offensive line with AVT there. But nonetheless, our offensive line handled their business. We were dominating the line of scrimmage. We rushed the ball at will against them. I look forward to continue that all year long. Justin Fields was a great compliment as well to our offensive line, because any type of sticky situation he got there, he had the legs to get out of it. It's just real encouraging to see. I haven't been this encouraged with our offense on the offensive side of the football in a long, long time. But we have to see consistency moving forward, and that's what's going to really determine. Justin Fields showed that he can take that step forward. Breece Hall, hell of a way to come back after that letdown of a season last year. He came back and reminded us all who he was, and there's just a lot of things adding up that could be positives. Clean up the defensive secondary. Clean up some of these dumb penalties. Popping out. The things that pop in my mind was the 2 missed 2-point conversions. Those are things that those silly things that we can get cleaned up. But very encouraging. All positive energy coming from me right now. It was nice to have a week, even though we lost, as Aaron Glenn said, disappointed, but it wasn't me like pissed off like at the levels I've been having for the past, 10 years. I was upset that we lost and disappointed that we lost, but I wasn't in like totally disgruntled and fucking in a rage because it was just terrible football out there. No, it was, like I said, I'm very encouraged, very optimistic moving forward. Let's use that as momentum and snowball going into this upcoming week. Let's beat the brakes off the Bills, and let's get back on track and Be on the lookout tomorrow. I'll be doing a collaboration with my boy from Table Smashers, like I said. Give us a little insight into how he's feeling about the AFC East, how he feels about his Buffalo Bills, and then we'll probably give our insight and talk some shit about the upcoming game, Jets versus Bills on Sunday, week 2. But as always, go Jets.